Welcome to another episode of the Lookout Podcast. My guest today is Drew Pattison, longtime Smokejumper and Missoula Smokejumper, but you rookied out of Redmond back in the day.
Yep.
2007, you said?
Redmond 2007.
Man, what was that like?
Man, it was a long time ago now.
Been a minute.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. You know, people talk about type 2 fun, in the moment. As you know, going through rookie training, it's hard work and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But at the end, you look back on it, and it's some of your most fun memories, you know.
Yeah, man.
And then staying close with people from your rookie class. I got one rookie bro that's still jumping over in Redmond.
Awesome.
Everyone else has kind of moved on to other jobs on forests or even retired now. Yeah, so
It's wild to think, man. Yeah, I guess, 07, it's been a minute.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I started in fire in 08, and that's like, I think I got like 16 years of fire in now or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So tickling 20 myself.
Yeah. What's you rookied at NCSB in 13?
13, yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
Nice.
only four of us, only two of us survived.
Yeah.
And I don't think my rookie bro's jumping anymore either. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm technically out of fire right now, but I think I'm getting back into it in a secondary position, and I think
Okay.
he's still in fire, but I think he's in Alaska too.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, shout out to Justin Johansson, good dude.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I remember Johansson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. It's kind of funny. Just I don't know. It's a small world, so you meet a ton of people across all the bases and stuff, and looking forward to heading back to Redmond myself this summer, and getting back in touch with some of those bros, and having a good time.
That's what I miss is because, being at NCSB, you're so close with Redmond, so, with RAC folks, so it feels like almost like one giant base because NCSB guys are always coming to Redmond.
Yep.
And, man, I've lost track of that Redmond base, entirely. And Redmond and Reading are the two bases that, I don't really talk to anybody from there, so I have no idea who's left. Yep.
Yeah. It's across the jump world right now, there's definitely a lot of openings. Most of the numbers at the bases are down pretty far right now. I think we've been seeing that across the Forest Service.
Yeah, everywhere.
But it's hitting the jump bases too now. So numbers are down. We're definitely, all the bases are trying to hire bigger rookie classes. So. It's hopefully we'll get to be building them back up. But I mean, like last year in Missoula, we had I want to say 3 rookies in Missoula, and the year before that it was maybe 2. Small classes. I think part of it too was going through that transition from round parachutes to square parachutes. There was a lot of focus on that, and not as much building
Recruitment.
The recruitment aspect. So it's been a change, but for me it's been pretty fun being involved with training for 10 plus years now. I did a lot of the transition training, and so I was able to stay in touch with Reading and Redmond, and we had a lot of Reading and Redmond guys up to Missoula to train for the transition, and then I actually went down to Reading and did some training with those guys down there. And then it was maybe 2 years ago now, one of the last classes for transition training in Redmond, I got to go and just kind of be, eyes on what they were doing and helping them out. It's been cool for me with the training thing. I've probably been in touch with a lot more of those bases, especially through COVID and all that, there was, even though the jump world's small and we travel around a lot, there was a lot less of that from 20 to 22. So especially the new guys, luckily I've boosted around the last couple of years. So I met a lot of the new, second, third year jumpers, but a lot of those guys didn't meet people right away, when we started, it was oh, you're going to silver, you're going wherever, right away. And there was kind of this weird thing during COVID where people didn't really travel around as much, it seemed like. But
Yeah, totally. Like you said, I didn't even think about that part because we got kicked out the door as soon as rookie training was over. And our plane was already gone. Even our plane was in Alaska. So,
oh yeah.
So me and my rookie bro ended up going in a van to Redmond, and then we went in a van to Reading.
Yeah.
And then we flew to McCall. But it was cool, and we got 3 bases in like just a couple of weeks.
Nice.
Yeah, you don't really have that much anymore.
Yeah, I mean that was my experience too as a rookie. I watched one of my rookie bros jump a fire on the Umatilla, and I was of course bummed because they only took a few, and I was still on the plane going home. But the next morning they were like, "Hey, Silver City booster," and so I boosted Silver City, got my first fire jump there. Then from there we went to Winnemucca, Nevada, and I jumped 2 fires actually out of Winnemucca, one on the Klamath,
dude,
yeah, from Winnemucca, and then we demobed all the way back. And then we jumped the Wanaha to Cannon on the Umatilla from Winnemucca, and then finally kind of demobbed back to Redmond through Boise. Like, yeah, it was weird. I was in like 10 different states during that time. Jumped 3 fires, all these bases, and this is like, yeah, I don't know. I've been lucky. I've had a few boosters that were like that, but definitely doesn't seem like that happens too much anymore.
No, and it seemed like it was kind of slowing down. Like it was kind of unusual for us to do it because even the Reading guys were like kind of like not angry, but like letting me and my rookie bro know that like this is special. Like you're going to McCall, like no one gets to go to McCall and all this stuff. We're like, but we don't know any better because we're just like, okay,
nice,
cool. We're just here for the ride.
McCall's still hard to get to.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, NCSB, like, I've talked to definitely some people that have been there, but I mean, my first jump in NCSB was last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dang, man.
Yep.
So you got all the bases then, huh?
No, haven't jumped out of McCall.
Oh, yeah.
Haven't jumped. I've jumped out of the basin, from a Boise base, but it'd be fun to make it to Grand Junction at some point.
Oh, that'd be cool. Kind of old school in there, eh?
Yeah. Luckily, I didn't make it up to Canada last year, but when I did make it up in 2010, the 2 places that they have Smokejumper bases now in Canada, I was able to jump out of both of them, even though they only had one set up as a base at the time. We were kind of like spiking out of the other one.
Really?
And so, I was able to jump out of Fort St. John and Mackenzie up there, which was pretty cool.
That's really cool.
And that was back on the rounds, but
yeah.
Man,
yeah, that'd be super cool. Is base manager, is his name Tom up there?
Tom Reinbold. Yeah, I think, I want to say he moved on to, can't think of the name of the district or whatever up there.
Things were a little different up there.
Yeah, but he's like basically in charge of like all the fire resources for their part of the province.
Oh, gotcha.
And so but word has it he still comes back and takes annual to jump fires.
Oh, really?
That's what.
That's so
something
cool.
like that. I don't know if it's annual for them or whatever, but
yeah,
I've heard he still comes back and jumps occasionally with those guys.
That's cool. That's something that happened my rookie year and my Snooki year, and then it kind of stopped happening after that. Was folks because remember there was like out of west who was like a New York firefighter or something like that.
Oh yeah,
who would take his time off to come and jump all summer.
Yep, yeah, and Jason Fernandez, was down in California and would come back and jump.
Yeah.
Was he in NCSB?
Yeah,
or
he was
RAC?
NCSB, yeah.
Okay,
yeah. That's where I got to meet him. Super nice guy. And
Yeah,
I'm like, dang, dude, you saved all your time off to come work?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, that's how you know it's special.
Yeah, and that's, I think when we were on rounds, I think that was more common because I would say you just didn't need as much training or currency. Like I feel like jumping ram air parachutes is more of a perishable skill, and so the more jumps you have, the better you're going to be, and so I haven't heard of too many people coming back like they used to, and just kind of jump for a few months during the summer or whatever, and but that was definitely a cool part of our history, and people kind of still able to live the dream even though they grew up and got a real job.
Yeah, totally. I still have a toe in a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool, man. Like, because I didn't know anything about him. I was just out of rookie training. All of a sudden, this guy showed up. I'm like, oh, man, you like late refresher or something? And then he told me he's down in, San Bernardino or something like that?
I think like Santa Barbara, maybe.
Santa Barbara, yeah,
doing the city fire stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it was like cool. And he brought his family up in NCSB, it was like
nice.
This beautiful spot anyway. So it was like
Yeah.
great place to get away. And the fire load's pretty minimal up there, and I think... I want to say I don't know if he was like on like available to boost. I think he was just kind of doing like a more of a local thing, and which is kind of nice. You jump a few small fires and go overnight or two, and come back and get some time with the family, and worked out pretty good, I think.
Man, yeah, that's a good spot for it. It's a beautiful area. So
Yeah.
I would definitely think about going up there too, but
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, you gotta convince my wife to move somewhere else, I guess, before I commit to going anywhere.
Yeah, totally. Wow, yeah, and I kind of missed my opportunity there. Like in 2013, when I rookied, the housing market was still pretty reasonable up there in Winthrop, and now it's getting a little crazy.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, imagine if you sell around here though, like in Missoula area, you'd probably get something comparable over that way, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. It seems like it's kind of getting crazy everywhere, but I think you're right. Like, it seems like Missoula is similar to there. Or to Redmond too, seems like, but
yeah, so it won't be so bad if you're uprooting from a destination like this to something like like you said, Redmond or Winthrop.
Yeah,
but I was gonna say, man, getting your first jump though out of silver.
Oh
man, that's huge. All the old boys have been proud.
Man, yeah, it was awesome. Doesn't happen a whole lot anymore, and I mean, especially now that we're really. It's kind of hit or miss whether we set up in the Southwest anymore, and especially in Silver City, but. We did have one of our rookies last year. We ended up setting up down there for a few weeks, and she ended up getting a jump out of silver on the Gila for her first jump too, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty surreal experience, like, and it was a tough jump too. It was over 10,000 feet.
Really?
One of those, you always hear the stories like, oh, it was a sea of timber and whatever, and it was. But so we were up on this ridge off Mogi and Baldy and Hummingbird Saddle it was, and of course that stuff's all burned up now, like a lot of the Gila, but beautiful mixed con forest at the time. But over 10,000 feet right on the shoulder of Mogi and Baldy.
Dude.
But super fun. First fire experience. There was already some people up there on a fire, and they needed a sea faller, and there was like 4 of us left on the plane, and one of the guys, he was actually my rookie trainer, lead rookie trainer, and he's a base manager now in Redmond. Josh Cantrell, yeah.
Oh, no way.
He was on the plane, and it was a sea faller, and he's like, yeah, we better take these rooks too, and so. Yeah, like all 4 of us ended up jumping this fire and
very cool.
worked it for a few days with the folks that were there and then demoed. But yeah,
and those are fun too. If you get to work with like the local district or another unit, like whenever we'd be working with repellers, like the Gallatin repellers when I jump out west, it was always cool, man. It was kind of like a reunion, because those guys.
Yeah, no, I think that's cool. I think anymore it seems like. I don't know that happens as much, and I don't know if it's like people not knowing how to order smoke jumpers or just not being used to doing that or what it is. But I don't know. It'd be nice if that happened more often again, because we're happy to work with any local folks and help with training or do anything. So yeah, it's always fun to get out there. I mean, Missoula is kind of special in a way because we're attached to the region. So we don't work with, even though we're surrounded by the Lolo, the Flathead, the Kootenai, the Bitterroot, like all these forests, we don't have our own landmass and we don't work consistently with those forests. So it's a little tougher to get to know folks than like when you're in West Yellowstone, you're right next door to the Gallatin, and you're hosted on the Gallatin. You're considered Gallatin resource, even though you're also national resource. And in Missoula, we actually have a fuels branch in our structure to try to interface with all the local forests, so we can get out and burn with them and do these other thinning projects and different things, just so we can make those relationships and hopefully work with them more, so that when it comes to working with them in the summer, we know everybody. And
and
it's
and that really helps build relationships too. Like when I was jumping here in Missoula, working with the state, the DNRC folks, and then the BLM didn't have much of a workforce, so like we were kind of their workforce, and that was cool. Burn up Ovando and stuff.
Yeah, we're still doing a lot of that. And one of our guys just took a fuels job with the BLM, and so nice. That relationship has definitely been good for us and for the Missoula BLM, and they've been doing a ton of work up Johns Root and up towards Ovando.
Oh, very cool.
So that's been a great relationship.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Like you said, that's what it's about. I think people get a little scared because the cost, or they think that they're going to get in trouble if they order jumpers. And it's like, when I did a stint in dispatch, I was always pushing it. I was like, hey, I mean, who, closest resource that has availability. So like and quickest, right? So, you see who's all in the forest, who's available. And of course, everyone's already tapped out. So then, talk to Missoula, and then I talked to salmon repellers, and just fan it out. And I wasn't like just aiming for jumpers, but I was calling everybody. But those aerial deployed resources like repellers and jumpers are going to get there way quicker, know. And if they got bodies, why not use them?
Oh yeah, no, and that's good. We appreciate that. There's I don't know if I want to get into it too much, but
no, you don't have to, man.
But yeah, it seems like there's been in the last few years more of this like reluctance to order jumpers because of this risk management kind of culture that we're in, which is great. And I think the jumpers as an organization have done their own risk management for 80 plus years now. And I think for people that don't really know the program and don't know the training that we go through, and we're not looking to get anybody banged up or anything, but we're used to doing our own risk management from the air. You get to a fire, you size it up, you find a good spot to go, and I think people that are less familiar with it are just like, oh no, those guys are crazy, like we don't want to risk somebody getting injured, so we're just not going to use them. And so
or they don't think it's a good jump spot, when it's like, well, you can just call it the jumpers, and they can fly it and
we
tell
can
you.
Look at it.
Get a good and they get a better look from the air. And example is I think it was in 14 or 15. We jumped somewhere on the panhandle near Avery, and I guess not quite on the panhandle really, but it was funny. I was talking to Eddie Smith about this, and he remembered the name is Elevator Fire. And they call us because it was in one of those real steep canyons, like for folks on watching. But there was no way to really like orbit or like get low enough to actually be able to see anything in the bottom. And the drainage bottom is always thick, with vegetation because of that's where all the water is, right? And so, but the fire started somewhere down there and ripped up, and was still like having some trouble down there. And 2 hotshot crews refused to go down there, so they called us hoping we could jump it. And it's like, well, we can't jump down there, but there's plenty of jump spots up top. We'll jump up top, and then we'll investigate from there, and work our way down and see if it's safe. And that's what we did. We just went from black to black to black, and worked our way to the bottom, and we're able to get the origin all hooked up the heel, I guess, and get it all put to bed. And then they ordered had another hotshot crew come in to kind of finish up what we started, but we made it secure and safe so that folks could actually get all the way down there. But a little spooky walking down though, man. It was like, holy cow, it was steep, and like man, I think people got in trouble doing stuff like this, But we had enough black, and it was pretty, it was like old logging unit, so the fuel wasn't real consistent either, so a little sparse.
I mean, I've definitely heard that, like the fuels are too thick. We don't want to put people in there. There's no jump spots there. There's the winds are too high. Like, we got a guy up there and he says the winds are too high, or what, all these different things. And but I think when it comes down to it, if everybody's busy, people are tapped out, we're going to get used. And so hopefully we get used a bunch, in the coming years, and people will get used to it again. And, it seems like it ebbs and flows. So,
oh, totally.
I
think folks got to remember too that jumpers have trucks. They could drive too.
Yeah.
Like if
it's true.
Yeah.
We don't want to, but
no. Yeah, exactly. My first fire, I think, was one we drove to. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man.
Oh yeah.
You can see it from the base at
Sure.
NCSB, and we all want to jump it, but they're just like, well, there's a road right to it, so.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We fought this fire up Grant Creek. It's probably like 2015. We were all pretty much done at work, and everybody got released for the day, and then got calls from ops, hey, you guys want to go up to this fire? And it was like right up by one of our practice jump spots. But yeah, it's like right up the road, so it's like, yeah, all right, we'll go jump in the trucks and go. And we'll do whatever we need to do to get there. Of course we send people out single resource and all that stuff all the time, so people are happy to be on fires, whatever it is.
Whatever it takes. And but there's like for folks who probably don't really know that they're as a jump base, we keep count of all jumps, practice jumps and fire jumps. So that's part of the reason why folks want to jump. You're trying to get as many jumps as you can. And
sure.
Like when I first met you was on that fire on the Gallatin just outside of Bozeman there, kind of. I mean, it was kind of Gallatin Gateway area, going to Big Sky, wasn't it? Kind of. I can't remember exactly. Was it Iron Mountain right there or something? I can't remember.
Oh man, what was the name of that one?
I don't know, but it was like this, and this is kind of like segues into like how you've jumped some of the most beautiful jump country I've ever seen, because the jump spot on that one looked amazing.
Yeah, and
you guys were above the inversion, right?
Mm-hmm.
At your camp, and then all the rest of us were in the immersion every night. And everyone's just like hacking.
Millie,
yeah.
Is that it?
That was it.
Millie fire.
The Millie fire.
Yeah, that was awesome. We actually had one of our guys jumped it twice, because they jumped it on the IA, and then it, of course, went bigger.
Yeah.
And then we ended up jumping up top in kind of the head wall of the canyon, which was a beautiful spot.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, it was amazing. For this, basically a slop over that kind of crossed the creek, and they were afraid it was going up towards like Highlight Canyon, and so they were like, oh, we need to get some people on that. And we put a load up top there, and then so at that point it was kind of getting later in the season, and they were like, well, why don't you guys just hang out and monitor that top section? And so we ended up staying for probably more than a week, I think, up there. And beautiful peaks, goats all over the place. And,
amazing, man.
Yeah, it was a pretty special one. That country over there's crazy. I've only had really one jump out of West, and same thing. There's the guys.
The one I was talking about.
With Eddie Smith and Seth Hansen, and one of the Alaska jumpers actually. But
the West guys were on it.
They were on the plane, but they watched us jump it.
Yeah, I was gonna say we all got to see you guys go.
Yeah, that was fun. Still when I talk about it with some people, they're like, "Oh yeah, that unicorn breeding ground fire."
That's what I always call it. That's what I always call it.
Oh yeah, that one was amazing. It was like up behind the Yellowstone Club. Cedar Mountain was like the place where it was, and it was like quarter mile from this like 700-foot waterfall. Just
dude, the videos crazy. And the pictures you guys had, it looked insane.
And a small like easy little fire. It was good. We paid for it in the pack out though. It was. We had everything ready to go to sling out with the helicopter, and then we had this inversion come in, and it ended up being like 8 mile pack out, and everything was soaked, so it was like 150 pounds or something. Tried to haul out of there, but it was worth it for that, that getting into that country by parachute, and nice little fire. It was really cool.
Yeah, and especially down in this country, it's hard to find a place that's that remote and then that beautiful too.
Mm-hmm.
So for you guys to be able to parachute in something like that, it's so rare, man.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Oh yeah. We got a call last year. I thought we were going to be up in Glacier Park, and didn't work out. It was actually one of those ones that the canyon was too deep to get to the jump spot that we were trying to get to.
Oh, really?
You couldn't even orbit in there because it was like really steep and narrow. And so they already had a helicopter that was on scene, and the fire was, I guess, small enough. They didn't need any extra people, so we ended up taking off. But anytime you can get into the Yellowstone Park or Glacier Park, any of the wilderness areas are
Bob Marshall,
pretty
that's
epic.
a big one.
Yeah,
and I guess and that's part of the reason why I want to have you on too, is for recruitment. For folks, it's like the opportunities you get as a jumper are just a little different. Like you still get those remote fire jumps, like the Unicorn Breeding Ground, by the Yellowstone Club, and jumped some cool ones in the Bob, and all Alaska, is this awesome jump country. Got to be up there with you, So folks, listen, if they just want just a change of pace, and to challenge themselves, jumping is where it's at.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The thing about it is it's always different.
Yeah.
One day you're going to be in the base packing a parachute. The next day you might be out in the wilderness fighting fire in like a really beautiful place. A week later you're, walking a dozer on some, big fire somewhere. And it just, I don't know, it changes so much. The scenery is always different and usually beautiful. So it's definitely it's been a fun career for me, and looking forward to another, hopefully 5 to 10 years. We'll see. Might
do like a detail to McCall or something to get that McCall jump.
I've actually gotten a practice jump out of McCall, but never a fire jump. I was detailed into a national training position a few years ago, and was able to kind of cruise around to some of the different bases during the transition stuff. And, ended up over there doing some Q&A with the bros there before they were like all in on the transition, and then we went out and did a awesome practice jump there. They have great jump country like right around the base, cool jump spots, and so that I've got that, but no fire jump yet.
Dang, man, you gotta get it, because you said that's the last one, right, McCall?
That one, I guess so.
Like proper base, because then you got, like you said, like Grand Junction.
Like Grand Junction would be cool, but I guess that'd be the last true base.
Man, there isn't something you don't get, like a pin or something if you get them all, right?
I don't know. We should have one.
That's what I was just gonna say, because I don't think I'll ever go back to jumping just with my health, but I only have Redmond. That's all I have left.
Oh yeah,
like I've got them all but Redmond.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Redmond is like what. I mean, all the NCSB guys I know have way more jumps out of Redmond than they do NCSB, and
that's funny.
I was there twice and just never got one.
Yep.
Just behind the storm, like the big cell would come through and rack would empty out, and then we come to back them up, and then it just go flat. Everything dead, and then they come back, and then we get shipped back out.
We did that a lot with Grangeville.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like early in my career, and it's funny because you talk to people, and the list is so random. Like, some people have jumps out of McCall in Missoula. Some people have jumps out of NCSB like multiple times. And it took me until last year to get a jump out of NCSB. And then, McCall, I think it's just because of the location and the size of the bases.
Yeah.
When we're busy, they're busy. So usually jumpers are coming in on boosts from other places. So McCall and Missoula don't really boost each other that much. But there's people in Missoula that have done it, and so it does happen. But
totally
few and far between.
No, and it seems like you almost get in a rhythm sometimes. Like for me, the Reading rhythm was kind of mine, and especially because the storm seemed to come to us from that way. But Reading will jump out, so they'll need help, and then we go, and Missoula will be sitting fat. As that's what I meant by we will be in Missoula, and so we'll go and back them up, and then maybe the cell will get to us, but it gets hung up in Grangeville or whatever, and maybe even peters out before it gets to Missoula. So
I've definitely had waves too. I mean, I've been in Grangeville the last 3 years probably, jumping multiple fires out of Grangeville. But like I said, for the first part of my career, it seemed like we'd go over there and backfill just in case they had more fires to jump, and we'd spend 3 or 4 days there building their travel bags or something, and then get sent back to Missoula, and we're like, oh well, I guess it was a sewing boost, not a fire boost. So.
that was kind of my experience too. Cleaning stuff and packing. Oh, they're rolling. No rookies are supposed to be in the loft, and but one of our trainers is like, well, we'll try to get them their 20s. So man, people were not happy about us being in the loft, man. And I was like, I don't want to be here either. So I'm shoving around in the bag, like this isn't my choice.
It's funny, I think a lot of that culture has slowly changed, and a lot of it I think has to do with the transition. for so long now, it's been like all hands on deck, whether it's manufacturing gear, packing parachutes, any of that stuff. So like, I mean, it was the same when I was a rookie, you know, it was like, oh, no rookies in the loft, or, you know, guys would be packing parachutes and writing TG4R on the tape there. And that meant too good for rookie.
That's awesome.
And so anyway, like, yeah, there was all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was all fun.
But
it
I was
wasn't,
gonna say, which makes it fun, though.
oh,
you know?
yeah. It wasn't anything weird, but like, but I think that's one good change that, I mean, there's been a ton of great changes, but one good thing that's come out of the transition is like now we have basically the rookies are in the loft helping to refurb components, check shoots, do all that stuff, like in rookie training.
Yeah, which is
and then
huge.
like right when they're done with rookie training, they basically pack their parachutes to be self-sufficient so that they can pack on the road or do whatever.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's just like been this push to like really include those people earlier in their career. And I think it's helped us out big time, because then, you know, they're ready to go when it comes to, you know, coming back for refresher or supporting, you know, the next year of training. Like they can be in the loft and know what they're doing. And
absolutely, like that self-sufficiency thing. Like that was a big push to NCSB, and that's why me and my rookie bro were, you know, packing shoots and we ended up doing it at Reading too.
Yeah.
But you know how it is, especially like because your first year you probably didn't pack any shoots, and you're on the road and you jump a fire and you're like, can someone pack this for me? Like,
yeah,
I can't pack my own chute. And it's a little embarrassing, and a little it makes you feel like you're high maintenance, and you're like trying not to be as a rookie, you know?
Yep. Well, it's I definitely had a little bit different experience. You know, of course in Redmond, it was no rooks in the loft.
Yeah.
And then but boosting down to silver, you know, there's times when there wasn't a whole lot going on, and so, you know, somebody would show me, you know, oh, this is how you pack a parachute or whatever.
Cool.
Oh, maybe you should pack one. And so like, even my rookie year, I packed some shoots there. I packed some shoots in Missoula, actually. I boosted up to Missoula my rookie year. And, you know, I don't know if those guys knew I was a rookie or not, but Brandon Coville was in Redmond, and he was like, yeah, come into the loft and pack a few shoots. And I was like, okay.
Awesome.
So yeah, it was cool. Like, so yeah, I was kind of like, well, you're on the road, like you should at least do something, you know, useful. And so, I was able to do that, which was, you know, again, helpful, because then, you know, the next year I was like ready to go for, you know, packing parachutes and getting that senior rigger and stuff, you know, fairly soon after. So, which
is huge, because, you know, like for me, I ended up in Miles City, and I guess I was already on the path to senior rigger. So, I mean, I had been jumping for a while, but I was the only person left, you know, everyone else was gone. So like you know, if I couldn't pack my own, then I wouldn't have been ready for, you know, whenever we got back. And I had that, which I would feel bad for the people who, you know, the senior rigger who would have to pack for me, because they'd be like, I got to pack mine and yours. Like, sorry. you know, like, but.
Oh yeah. And that's kind of where we've gone now with like the transition to ram air shoots, is like everybody can pack their main. And we have a rigging supervisor that is basically like the senior rigger that will oversee like all the packing that's going on. And there's, you know, a certain place in the packing of the parachute where there's a rigger check, and they come over and they check, you know, your locking stows and, you know, these different things that are, you know, important for, you know, the safety of the parachute and stuff. Yeah. And it's just that one check in the middle, and then, you know, okay, go back to what you're doing and put it in the bag, and
that's just cool,
it's ready
man.
to go. So
yeah, it's good at that check, you know, just to like, in case, you know, in August or whatever, or maybe just like, you know, not really in it that day, you know, see if someone come look. I don't think I've ever been around where someone had an issue with it, but it's just nice, I think, to make you pause a little bit and check it out.
No, it's good, especially, you know, for the new people that are just getting going, to have somebody looking things over, and you know, it's always a time where, you know, they're still hungry too, to like learn little tips and tricks and different things to make them a more efficient parachute packer and that kind of thing. So
I remember when I was going through ram air training, and you know, all the packing was here in Missoula before we went to Alaska, and I'd be like watching everybody else, so I was like getting all flaked out. I'm like, what are you doing? yours looks better than mine. You know, like
oh yeah.
So like it would take me a little longer because I'm new to it, but also I'd be like trying to absorb whoever was around me packing. I was like,
sure,
what do you got going on?
Yeah. That's one of the cool things that we've noticed in the last couple of years. We've been doing a parachute training that's specific to like our second and third year jumpers, and just harnessing that like hunger to improve and learn and all that. Like it's really strong when you first start, but you're also like, oh, I'm a smoke jumper now. I don't want to ask any questions and like, look like I don't know what I'm doing. So, for those new people to be able to like put their egos aside or whatever or just be in the environment where they're away from like the more experienced jumpers, so they can ask those questions and not feel bad because they're not holding the group up or whatever. Yeah. And so we've seen that in like the parachute packing stuff, but also in like parachute jumping and so getting people away for like a new jump training, when they're in their second or third year, puts them on a good path to success for like, the rest of their career, because they're improving a lot more than if they just come back to a normal refresher.
Yeah, totally. Because like you said, you come back to a normal refresher and you may have a question or you may see something like that someone else and you're like, oh man, that seems better, but I am too embarrassed to ask.
Yeah.
So that's huge, and safety in the long run, because maybe they are developing something that even the trainers didn't see, like a weird hitch or something. Like I remember one year one of the guys had a weird thing with their PLF, and it was gonna be a bad deal down the road, and someone just barely picked it up on their last jump, during refresher, and then went and talked, and you probably know what I'm talking about, and worked it out, but like little things like that, if you don't catch it, it could come and bite you down the road, especially on like for folks who don't really know, like the like coming into a slope could be a bad day.
Yeah.
Some people have femered in just because of a slope, so. Yep. I was gonna ask you about the triple nickels too. How'd you end up at that memorial, man? That is super cool.
Man, that was like super random. I found out about it like 2 weeks before the event. It was in Pendleton, Oregon, where I think the triple nickel, they were stationed or did their initial training or whatever in 1945. The way I kind of found out about it was I've been lucky enough to go over and jump at the 75th anniversary of the Normandy invasion.
Oh, really?
I was able to jump. Basically, we flew across the channel from England to France and then jumped rounds from Miss Montana, actually, our aircraft here that was like the Man Gulch DC-3 and like has this really cool like smoke jumper history, but then also they fixed it up and flew it all the way to Europe to do this 75th anniversary thing.
Wow.
So,
that'd be a heck of a flight.
Yeah, it was a really cool deal. And so I was involved with that, and then been involved with several Miss Montana jump kind of things that have gone on. And it's been fun for me because it's like kind of kept me in that round world of like doing round jumps and stuff.
Yeah, because where else would you do it anymore?
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually kind of fun too, because the military parachutes that we're using are like 35-foot diameter, and you're not carrying any gear, so like the landings are all pretty soft, even on like flat fields and stuff. So
cool.
It's pretty fun. Anyway,
I guess for folks listening, the Triple Nickels are an all African American group that were paratroopers.
Yeah. They were an airborne unit during World War II, and basically trained, at the same time as the 101st Airborne, the 82nd Airborne, and because of their color, they would not let them go over to fight in the war.
Overseas, right?
Yeah. So, it was kind of a dark thing for that time period. But one of the cool things that they were involved in was a little known kind of stateside operation called Operation Firefly, which late in World War II, the Japanese were launching these incendiary devices via balloons, and they were coming across the Pacific and landing in forested areas and causing fires. And most of them, it wasn't the right season and stuff, so it really didn't take off as much as they probably were hoping. But there were actually people killed that like found these things and they had exploded. And I guess there was a little bit of success for them and like causing some disruptions. But anyway, the triple nickel, they ended up, I think they got like 7 days of smoke jumper training in Pendleton, Oregon.
Oh, really?
And then they sent them out to all these different bases. I believe that they were in Cave Junction and Redding and Pendleton, and I don't know how many bases, but they kind of spread them out all over the West. And I believe they jumped 1,200 fires.
Holy cow.
In 1945. So, I mean, it ended up not just being like the Operation Firefly stuff, but basically they were a part of the Smokejumper crew and fighting fire, jumping out of airplanes in 1945.
Dang, so cool, man.
And yeah, so this event was kind of to honor them. I want to say it was maybe the 74th or no, the 79th maybe anniversary of Operation Firefly. And they're looking to try to do it every year in Pendleton. So something to throw on the calendar if it happens again. It's a pretty cool event. There's only one surviving member of the Triple Nickel, and he wasn't at the event, but they live streamed him in for the ceremony and stuff. He's 107 years old.
Oh man.
Yeah. So pretty
cool.
Pretty amazing. Those guys are awesome. Just hung in there, did their duty and their service during World War II, and it was a little bit different than the other military guys that were going overseas, but yeah, it's a cool kind of like crossover that we have with the Smokejumper program.
Yeah.
And that was one other cool thing about being able to go over to Pendleton and do these jumps and stuff. Like everybody that does, they're almost like a reenactment kind of jump thing, and so you wear military uniforms and all that stuff. And
cool.
And everyone that I've been involved with is very like airborne, military centric, and I've always felt kind of weird because I've smoke jumped for however many years, but wasn't a military guy, and so I'm like, well, I'm kind of stolen valor or something because I'm wearing this like military uniform, and it's like old World War II stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
But it was really cool to be in Pendleton because there was that crossover of like smoke jumper and military, and like everybody that was involved was super into. We had 2 guys that are actually retired smoke jumpers that were there that jumped smoke jumper gear.
Oh, really?
Like actual FS14s and
cool.
gear and all that stuff, and everyone that's only seen the military stuff was like super stoked to like see that stuff, check it out.
Yeah.
And it just kind of added to the history of the whole deal. So it was a really neat event.
Yeah, so like a bunch of greens and then 2 blue parachutes, huh?
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah, like the blue colors, nostalgic to me, because I got so many jumps on the round.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's very cool.
Me too. Yeah, I love seeing it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. There's maybe a couple of people left, I think, right now in the Forest Service that are still jumping FS14s. Ben Elkine jumped a fire on a FS14 last year, I know, out of NCSB.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that was
I didn't even think who would be the last, because that'll be kind of historic, whoever the last one is.
That was kind of a funny thing that happened last year because I think Belsby and I forget who was involved, but basically they jumped a fire at a NCSB, and they were like, oh, this is the last round jump because like everybody was transitioning the next year or whatever. So they made a plaque and all this stuff.
Oh, really?
Last round jump out of NCSB. And then when we boosted there last year, Ben came up from rack and he ended up jumping a fire from NCSB on a round.
That's awesome.
So I was like, well, I guess the plaque's, no good anymore. But
update that plaque.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because the big plaque there, the 1939 plaque.
Oh, yeah.
And there's always that little bit of back and forth between Missoula and NCSB about the origin of smoke jumping, because
we always give them a hard time and tell them they were the birthplace of practice jumping.
Yeah, totally.
Because that's where the program started in 1939, but 1940 was the first fire jump, and it was actually in Idaho, but it kind of came roundabout through Missoula to Idaho. But
yeah, no, that's what's kind of wild about it.
Probably more than anybody claiming the origin of smoke jumping could be Grangeville, because they're the closest to that, but there wasn't a base there at the time.
No, yeah, and they flew out of 9 Mile too, right? Wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think because there was the airport that we're at now was built in the 50s.
Yeah,
and so in the 40s they were operating out of 9 Mile airstrip.
Yeah,
they had a little loft there and everything.
Oh, so cool. Yeah, and then there was that one that were kind of near where the fairgrounds is too. That we used a little bit.
Yep.
One of the old guys from that anniversary jump, or what was that big anniversary? The 70. Dang, what year is that? 40 and 15 or something. We had a big 70 or 75th or something anniversary smoke jumping at the base. It was a big deal.
Yep.
And
probably the 70. Yeah, probably the 70, because I think they just had the 80 in McCall.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, maybe it was 70, and then I think we had just got back from Alaska or something, and there was a bunch of retired smoke jumpers coming around. It was super funny, because I remember one was giving Parker a hard time. They're like, you need all this padding?
Yeah.
Parker's like, yeah, we're coming in kind of fast.
Yeah.
And we didn't use all this back in our day, and then another guy, I heard him talking, and I don't know if he's giving me a hard time or somebody, but he's like, you're not a real smoke jumper till you crack silk over the Black Range, son. And I was like, oh man, I haven't jumped over the Black Range yet.
Yeah.
In my 4th year of smoke jumping or something.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no.
Yeah. It's great talking to those old guys. They definitely have some great stories. Was Wayne Williams still jumping when you were in Missoula?
I don't know. I mean, the name sounds familiar, but I don't think he was.
So he was an awesome guy. I actually just ran into him today. He stopped by the base.
Really?
That's why he's fresh in my mind. But
oh, cool.
I want to say he rookied right around the time I was born, late 70s. So he jumped with the guys that were in the program from the 50s all the way up to the 2010s.
Jeez.
So he saw 60 years of history, or heard it secondhand from people, and so it was cool to be able to work with him and jump with him when I first started. But he was the curator of the smoke jumper history. He's spent a lot of time developing the visitor center there in Missoula. He was kind of running that show before he retired.
Oh, very cool.
But yeah, just super cool guy, full of great stories. And it seems like most of those guys that jumped in the 60s and 70s and 80s, they just have some wild stories, because it was not that it was more fun back then, but I think it was just it was kind of the heyday of smoke jumping before a lot of the forest built up a lot of fire resources. So so in a lot of places they were the only fire resources. And then, just kind of I don't know, the wild 60s, 70s, whatever. It was just a different time.
Yeah, the whole culture, and the world was different back then, and it seemed a little more footloose, maybe some things. I heard stories about LeGrand, from back then, and which isn't a base anymore. That they had some wild times back in the day. And then, man, hearing some, I think it was John Spencer. I was jumping out at NCSB. Did you ever meet him? He was a teacher.
Yep.
Yeah, great guy. He scared the hell out of me, because he's right before our first boost. He's like, "You guys just get done with rookie train?" I think it was that day. I was like, today, and going off. And he's like, "I remember when I got done with rookie training, I broke both my ankles." And I was like, "What?" And he started going off on all his injuries. I was like, "I don't need to hear this." Right before I'm about to leave on a boost to Reading, Oh man, he scared me a little bit, but he was telling us stories from hot shotting back in the 70s, I want to say, and just how wild it was, just a whole different, way western, different world, and there wasn't the R&R and all that, the work to rest ratio wasn't there,
there's definitely a lot more like policy guidelines now that we're following that is probably makes things a lot safer and better, for people, better work-life balance. But
I gotta talk to Wayne. I gotta see if he can come on here.
Yeah, you should get in touch with him. I probably have his number, but I think the other thing that's happened a lot is like the career nature of the Forest Service and firefighting and smoke jumping too. Has changed a lot, and that's one of the things that it's fun to go up to Canada, because I feel like that's a glimpse into like, 1950s, 60s, like smoke jumper culture here would have been, because like a lot of, they're not really doing it for a career. They're like younger. They're, doing it for a few summers to like make money so they can go to school and go do, a different job. And most of the guys that you talk to that went through smoke jumping in the 50s, 60s, 70s, they did it for like 4 years and it was the best years of their lives, but
exactly.
Then they went and became lawyers or doctors or astronauts or like whatever, like they went and did something else after, they made money doing the firefighting thing. And I think, more recently it's been like, well, I'm going to do this as a career. And and especially the jumping thing. And I want to say like part of that has been like the improvements in equipment and everything. You talk to those old guys, and of course a lot of them have been banged up and whatever. And so I think with our move to the Ram Air system, there's definitely the potential for injury, like there always was, but I think you can also like soften up the landings and seems like it's extending careers and reducing injuries more than anything for us. It's been cool to see that too. But I think that career thing is like one of the main differences that, everyone was just kind of wild back in the day, because it was like, well, I'm doing this for a few years and whatever. But
because you look at like the age of the man golf fellows who died. They're all like 20, 18, 21, like I think 21 was like the oldest I saw, I think.
Oh yeah. If you were like 23, you were like a spotter. And
it's so wild to think about, man. I was 27 when I rookied, How old were you when you rookied?
29.
Oh yeah. So and that seems like the average, because you got to get that work experience in before you go jump now.
It's definitely and that's one of the things that with us having more holes in the program, that's changing a little bit. Like we're seeing applicants with less experience, and also it used to be like, well, you need like 5 years on a hotshot crew before you could apply to jump, and it's not so much that way anymore. Like we're looking for well-rounded firefighters and people that are we're looking for good firefighters, but there's not as much of a like focus on like you need this many years of hot shotting and this many years of fire in general, because it used to be like 5 to 7 years people would have before they would apply to jump, seems like. And
some of those guys are getting so beat up because by that point they're on a saw on a shot crew, so they're carrying a ton of weight and their knees are getting beat up, so their knees are in rough shape, At least some of the folks that I knew that I jumped with were saying that,
Well, that's why we call it hot shot retirement.
That's a good point.
Come to jump, because that's hot shot retirement. But I think it's definitely a tough job on people. So I think getting in a little earlier probably isn't a bad thing either. But that's, I get asked a lot, like, oh yeah, do you like, can I come be a smoke jumper if I have like military experience or whatever jumping? And I'm like, well,
sport jumping,
not really. Like we look for the best firefighters, and then we teach them how to jump. So like it'll benefit you if you know how to jump already and you come into the program, but like you got to go work and get that experience firefighting first. And I've talked to a lot of military guys actually that have like made that jump from like military service to smoke jumping, and even guys that I was talking to them on the phone before they were done with military. They were like, I want to do this, and I'm like, well, okay, you got to go fight fire for a couple years somewhere and
get some experience.
Get that experience. And most of them are like, okay, they know, they're like, okay, I got to put in some time doing this. And And so, yeah, like that always seems to be a good fit for us too, is like those military guys coming over.
Yeah. Because they're used to trainings, going through trainings before, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, like kind of the mental mindset to put yourself into to get through the training and be a sponge, you know, and that goes a long way. And for folks who don't know, it's like you said, teaching folks how to parachute, you know, not how to fight fire, because otherwise, I mean, rookie training's 6 weeks long and it's intense.
Yeah.
Maybe it'd have to be all summer if you had to teach folks how to fight fire too,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, for sure.
To be safe, maybe not all summer, but it'd be, you know, it'd end up being like a big basic training, which I think isn't basic like a month or something longer. Or no, it's got to be longer than a month because we're 6 weeks. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to compare it to, I guess, you know?
Right. Well, and you're totally right. I mean, it would be months long if you had to do the fire stuff too. And there's field portions of the rookie training experience, but more than anything, that's just like a physical test of like, hey, this is where you're at or what we can expect from you. And you know, it's funny because like you're saying, most people are running a saw and a hotshot crew, and then they come to rookie training and you're like, here's a Pulaski, go dig a line.
You're like, oh man,
I haven't done this in years. So.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, most people don't run a Pulaski, but maybe their first year on a district or a hotshot crew because they end up grabbing something else.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a good thing. Like we have a lot of like complex cutting we need to do too, so it's nice to have good sawyers, but it's there's only a couple of saws coming out of the plane and everybody was a lead saw, so some people are gonna have to grab Pulaskis.
Yeah, totally, man. Holy cow. And that hotshot saw experience is so much better than what I, like for me, like what I thought what I thought I was, coming off a B faller in a district who, I would cut a lot of fires, but then actually like getting with someone like Zahner who had put in a ton of time. I think it was on Snake River, and like I barely had to swamp for him, and I, when we'd switch, going tank for tank, I felt so bad because he had to swamp a lot for me. It's like, man, I'm not as good at this as I thought,
Oh, yeah.
But he had so many hours on trigger time,
Sure is, man. And I actually was never on a hotshot crew myself.
Oh, really? Yeah, me and you both.
Yeah, I came from fire use background.
Oh, dang. Very
cool. We did a lot of like thinning on the district and cutting, and we did a fair amount of like falling on fires. For the fire use module too, but nothing like the hot shots are exposed to on a day-to-day basis when you're running that saw. So there's a ton of respect for like those guys and their abilities on the saw.
Eddie Smith, holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that guy's a horse. Man, we were on that elevator fire, like I said, it was crazy steep, and I can't remember what's going on. I think I was starting to have some like kind of heat illness kind of set in or something, so like because I had the saw, and then he ended up taking it from me, and so I could get out of there. He just crushed everybody up the hill still with the saw on his shoulder, and I was just like, it's a different kind of human.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think I was starting to cramp up a little bit, so I took a little break in the shade and got some electrolytes in me to kind of revamp. And
I've been there.
Yeah, it happens so quick, especially around the saw. Like you get so like mission focused, and you just keep cruising, and it's so easy not to drink water when you run the saw. Cause you're like, there's the next thing to cut, next thing, and next thing I knew, it was like after lunch, and I hadn't had much for water that day or electrolytes, and I felt my fingers first, like my fingers were starting to get like tight and crampy. And then I was like, yeah, it's gonna be hard getting out of this. I could have done it. It just would take me a long, long time. And Eddie was nice enough to take the saw. And he's like a mountain goat, that guy.
Sure.
But
there's a lot of them in the program.
There is, it's super cool, man. That's a fun part of it too. Like getting to see like the aspect of different people, that come along in the jump program, and the brains, man. There's so many smart people, but like I'm like, man, I know why I'm here. I'm not very smart, but like, why are you here?
Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome. Like, definitely an eclectic group of individuals, and like you're saying, there's people from all over the place. I mean, it's funny just looking around at our base. We got like East Coasters to West Coasters, like people from everywhere in between. Like you're saying, I mean, college educated, some like masters and PhD, people. We got, none in Missoula right now, but I know bases that have nurses and paramedics and, all these different life skills that they bring to the table that it's just a pretty cool group to be a part of.
Yeah, it's so cool. And most of the time you don't even know it until like you jump a fire with them. You're sitting around the fire, and you hear someone else say something like poking fun at them for like being there. You know, like
Sure.
wait a minute, why are you here? You know, like you got a doctorate?
Yeah.
But that's what makes it fun too, especially being around the fire after, you know, in a small little like 4-manner or something in the middle of nowhere, you know, and get to know like the folks that you've been working with. But sometimes you don't really get to know them that well, you know, like you're hanging out with them, PTing, but then when you're on a fire together, you really get to know them a little bit more, you know.
Yep. But, yeah, it's funny. Everybody has like that same love though of like being out in the woods, you know, working hard, all that stuff. You know, you can have your PhD, or you can, you know, be from New Jersey, and you're like, you know, everybody's, when it comes down to it, like you're all there for the same thing. And you know, I just want to be out there working in the woods, and
it really shows. Yeah, it really shows at night, you know, like when you're kind of winding down, having your meal, or in the morning when having some coffee, like everyone's just kind of taking it in. It's so nice, you know, and like you said, you can see the joy that everyone has for being out in the woods. Yeah, that's where, like, you know, smoke jumping and rappelling is probably similar, because they go, you know, on the same kind of small remote fires, you know, but it kind of sets it apart from all the other, you know, types of fire where it's like, you know, hot shot and districts seem to be more focused on the bigger, you know, like campaign fires, you know, and where rappelling and smoke jumping are still set on the small little fires.
Yeah. Ish.
You know, you don't get them as much, you know, because like Tom Harmer was saying back in the day, remember the 2-manner in the Bob's day?
Yeah. Well, and we're still getting 2-manners in the Bob, and that's great. But
I know, I was so glad to get one after you said that.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, there's definitely been a change over the years, you know, and part of it, I think, has been like the buildup of more firefighters on districts. And, you know, so there hasn't been as much of a need for smoke jumpers.
More roads.
I think you could argue that there was a lot more roads in like the 50s and 60s when they were doing a lot more logging.
Oh, true, yeah.
And that was like pre-wilderness too. But
very true. I didn't even think about that, man. Yeah.
But anyway, I feel like there's been more of a focus for the jump program, and it makes sense because we have a lot of really experienced firefighters that are, you know, I mean, you just look at Missoula. I wish I could remember the numbers right now, but I'm in the training branch right now, and Enrique was just talking about like how many task forces we have and how many divisions we have, and, you know, how many IC3s, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, for a long time now, we've been like, okay, every load that goes out of Missoula will have an IC3 on it. Yeah. And we don't have to do that much adjusting to like get an IC3 on each load. Like it just kind of happens organically on the list. But, you know, that's kind of the way it is now, is like we do have some younger, less experienced folks that are working on those single resource quals and stuff. But a lot of times you get a load out of Missoula, and it's probably similar for a lot of the other bases, but you get a load out of Missoula, you're going to have an IC3, a couple divisions, you know, multiple task forces. And so there's been a push to be like, well, if you got like an emerging fire, get a load from Missoula, and they can kind of set up that command structure and start ordering resources and get things rolling. Yeah. And so it seems like more often than not these days we're jumping like full load fires. And not all of them go big or whatever, but like we're kind of not the first ones to the party, or you know, it's not the 2-manner in the Bob.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I think there are those times where people are overwhelmed. You know, it's August and you get another lightning bust, and there's people already spread thin on other stuff, and that's when it happens, and you get kind of those old school like, oh yeah, we're all jumping 2-manners and whatever. And,
and that's the Kootenai or wherever.
Sure, yeah. And that's really, I mean, you could argue that that's the fun stuff. Yeah. You know, just jumping these little fires out in the wilderness.
Probably because they aren't as common, you know. I think maybe that's why too.
Yeah.
And I totally get what Tom Harper was saying. You know, I really like Tom Harper, but you know, it was just kind of funny to get one after he said it though. I was like, But I get the focus, like he said, like the value for the jump base, like you were saying, is more like a Type 3 team that can load up and go out and be on an incident really fast. Yeah. You know, and So I totally get that part.
Well, and I think part of what Tom was saying too is like there was starting to be a lot more reliance on like the fire use, which is now
True.
wildfire management, whatever.
Yeah.
Terminology always changes, but yeah, you look at a lot of the wilderness areas now, and they have like a pretty like complicated mosaic of old fire perimeters, and so we're not getting as many like fires that go big out there, so we can manage fire a little bit more on the landscape.
Totally.
And so, you know, I think that was more of his focus of like, you know, oh, you guys aren't going to be necessary because we're starting to get this like mosaic of fires out there. But it still depends on the season, right? Because if it's like, you know, a bad season and there's already a ton of fire on the landscape, most managers aren't going to want to take the risk of having like a bunch more fires out there. And so that seems like the times when we end up getting called is like, okay, like we need to control some of this stuff and you know,
yeah, totally.
Not manage everything, but
yeah, totally. Even from like my experience of being on the district where we had like two, I think one ended up being on Ennis on the Madison district, but we had, you know, we already had a big fire just north of town. So it's like you said, you don't want another one. So you're going to try and manage the rest, you know, put them all out, you know, so you're going to order more resources. It seems like at that point, no matter, you know, jumpers or whatever they are, you know, at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. The 2-man and the bob is pretty fun though.
Sure is. Yeah. Or the Great Bear or the Scapegoat or
Yeah. Was it Big Burn Wilderness? Is that the other one? Great Burn Wilderness? Oh, I can't remember the other one.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? It's one I've never been in it, never fought fire, but like I know it's like
I'm not sure.
Yeah, now I'm gonna look.
Is that part of like the Bob complex or?
I wonder if it is. Man, I wonder. Well, Great Burns, I think it's a little bit more west of the Bob. Man, I'm trying to remember because like when I was taking, I took like the defensive horseman here. And,
nice.
Yeah, because I was doing a detail of the weeds, and they were actually gonna. I guess there's like a sprayer you can put on a horse or a mule, and you know, like sprays. You're going into the Bob, so. They're recruiting me to do that, and being from Whitehall and growing up with horses, like I already had a little background, but you had to get the certificate. So,
nice.
Yeah, I went to 9 Mile and did that, and some of the folks in the training were doing like some kind of like research project in the Great Burn Wilderness area. And I can't remember exactly where it was, but it sounded awesome. I was like, because I'd never heard about it until I took the training, and I was going to say that earlier, like there's so many layers to what we have out here, you know, like I've been living out here almost my whole entire life and then been the Foresters, but I'd never heard of triple nickels until I went to NCSB, and the Great Burn until I'm in 9 Mile. Like there's so many things that are still, you know, to be found out this way, which I think is super cool, man.
Yep. Yeah. It's a lot of history. It's pretty cool. And Missoula's a big spot for that. I mean, definitely one of the I guess premier like fire destinations, or I guess you would call it like hubs of the West, you know, for Forest Service and fire.
Totally. Yeah, we're at the fort right now that, you know, the district is here, and then I think they just moved dispatch here, didn't they? Or they're going to?
Yeah, I think so, because they were at Catlin maybe. But
yeah. And then Lolo Hot Shots just down the road there at Catlin, and then Smokejumpers. I mean, it's a heck of a hub, and coming from Whitehall, it's just all we had was a local district there in Whitehall, and then down the road was Dillon, you know, the SO and dispatch and stuff, but pretty spread out and pretty small. No hot shot crew, you know. There's a Helitac crew, but even they were starting to go away when I was, you know, as a national ship. Like, you know, I think that now they're just more local, and they're out of the Big Hole now. And it's like small scale, and then coming here to Missoula, I was like, holy cow, like blown away, man. Which is cool because you got a bunch of different options, you know, to go fight fire if you're going up around here, you know, district, or you work your way up district, hot shot, and smoke jumping. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, like the regional resources are all kind of here in Missoula with, you know, the cache and the coordination center, and but then like I mentioned before, you got Bitterroot, Lolo, Flathead, Kootenai, like everything's like fairly close to Missoula. So yeah, it's definitely a hub.
It is, yeah, for sure. And like when I first started the podcast, that's why I ended up naming it the Lookout Podcast, because I was thinking more of like a symbol of outdoors. I wasn't like so fire, like, you know, I felt weird calling it like Smokejumper Podcast, especially because like, I don't know, I got that idea, even though I jumped for 5 years, I still had like this idea that like someone would be like, you didn't jump long enough to be calling it, claiming Smokejumper podcast, So I was like, I don't want to do that,
Yeah.
So like, I figured lookout, and the lookouts are kind of going away. So like, I figured, a way to kind of keep the image of a lookout tower and keep it, like more relevant, and hopefully in my own little way.
Sure. No, I think that's cool. And like, I like the symbolism too of just like, being on the lookout and like,
that was definitely part of it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, but I end up just getting sucked more back into the fire stuff because there is such a rich history of fire, and my 16 years of fire, so it's like, which is cool though. I'm glad I kind of got sucked back into it because I was starting to get like, because of me, just my health was getting bad. So that's why I left jumping, and that's why I ended up getting out of fire because I physically couldn't do it anymore. So this is kind of a good way to stay back, in contact. 'Cause, I get to catch up with you, which is awesome. We ain't hung out in forever, and man, you're so busy. Oh, you're gonna be gone because I was gonna ask you about the Man Gulch, the 75th anniversary.
Oh yeah, yep. It sounds like they are putting together some kind of commemoration thing. And I think they might have the Miss Montana involved somehow, maybe with just a flyover or something.
I heard a flyover, yeah.
Yeah, but I think I would love to be there, but I think I'll be in Oregon by that point. So
you'll be busy doing other stuff.
Yep. So can't do it all, man.
No.
But it's it's been a bit busy spring.
Man, you're busy year round though, and I don't want to keep you too much longer because I know what time is it? You got to go in here pretty soon.
Oh, I'm good. It's 3:30.
All right, man. I won't keep you too much longer then.
Oh yeah, no, it's all good.
I know you got stuff to do, but which the Bro Boogie I was going to talk to you about, which is super, which I've been wanting to get involved with, but just had with the kiddos coming, kind of tied up in the winter. But I think that's an awesome thing to for folks to get together and do and be under canopy in the off season, man.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's so this year we did the 7th Bro Boogie, which it's basically a couple of us smoke jumpers decided to go get our A licenses for skydiving just to go check it out, see what was out there. I jumped for the Forest Service for 10 years before I went and did any skydiving, so kind of just a weird thing, but it was like, well, maybe someday I won't be able to jump out of planes for a job, so I want to go try this and see how it is. And since then, I've kind of gotten addicted to all that. So now I paraglide and speed wing and wingsuit and all that stuff. Not base jump, but wingsuit with skydiving and stuff.
I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. But anyway, like 3 of us went down to Texas and got our A licenses. In that same year, we were like, well, we need to try to get a bunch of the bros together and just go do like some skydiving in the off season. And so I think that first year we had like 6 of us that met up in Eloy, Arizona at Skydive Arizona. And basically at that point we just agreed, okay, it was the second week of December, like the second full week of December. And we were like, okay, from now on, we're just going to meet this week every year, Eloy, Arizona, and it's going to be the Bro Boogie. Yeah. And so, we've, it kind of like slimmed down a little bit during COVID. We only had like 3 or 4, but then it's built back up the last few years. I think last year we had 25, and that was with like 4 or 5 people just kind of coming in for a day or 2. And this year we had 22, but like everyone was there for the whole time. So it's like cool. the weekend before and after that second week of December. And so it ends up being like 9 days, and some people come early and some people stay late. And so it's just, a cool thing. And so, like 2-3 years ago, it was mostly just smoke jumpers that were going down there. I've had that Instagram Smoke Jumpers on IG Instagram account for I don't know how long. Seems like forever now.
Long time, yeah.
Probably getting close to 10 years maybe. But anyway, I was just like, well, what happens if we like throw this out to like the fire community in general? Wildland firefighters, but also structure or whoever wants to come. We're just include everybody.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how long ago it was maybe 4 years ago. We just kind of put it out there and was like, hey, we've been doing this skydiving thing down in Arizona. Anybody from the fire community that is a skydiver or wants to get their license, come down and hang out with us. And it's just a cool time for like fire folks, like-minded people to get together and hang out in the desert and jump their faces off.
Yeah, so cool, man.
And so, yeah, it's kind of just grown. You know, one of the cool things that we've seen, come out of it is, you know, we've had guys, that are like on helicopters or hotshot crews or whatever that are, skydivers, but you can tell like, oh, they want to be smoke jumpers too at some point, you know, or they're interested in it. And so they'll come out, and it's been pretty cool because we've had, we have a couple people that are in rookie training right now in McCall and in Missoula that have, kind of been to the Bro Boogie for like the last 2 to 5 years.
Huge.
And one guy that went through in McCall last year, Lauren Lamb, that, you know, he was on a Northern California hotshot crew. Then he was on Alpine for a couple years.
Beautiful spot.
Yeah. And then he decided it was time to do the smoke jumping thing. And so then, yeah, he ended up getting picked up in McCall and got through last year. And, I gave him his buddy check, for his first fire jump in California last year, which was really cool.
That's really cool, man.
But yeah, so, you know, we've got folks, from Colorado that are on wildland fire modules, or engines. Another guy who's, a rappeller who's been, to a couple, another guy who's, was on the short haul ship at the Grand Canyon. I think he's maybe on Bonneville Hot Shots this year.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, just a wide ranging group. And you know, everybody just gets together and has fun. It's pretty fun. Like if you would have told me, you know, 6-7 years ago that I'd have such a good time falling through the sky, holding hands or trying to hold hands with people, I would have been like, yeah, you're crazy. But, it's super fun. Just like jumping out of a plane with like 10 people and like trying to come together and, you know, do like a formation or something.
Just having a ton of fun, man. Was it last year you guys were doing hot air balloons, or have you guys always been doing that?
Yeah. We've tried to do that as much as we can. I think probably been like the last 5 years we've been able to do balloon jumps. And, I don't want to bring the conversation down, but, the balloon jumps probably won't be happening, in the next, few years, probably. The balloon, the company that we've been going with, they had an accident and the pilot, died. So
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was too bad. He's a great guy. And, kind of a crazy thing. It was just like a couple of weeks after we left this year. So, you know, I would still like it. It's an amazing experience, and if you have a chance to do it, go do it. But
because that's always been a dream. And I saw all the videos, and maybe it wasn't from, you know, it's not from last year, but maybe it was years before. But I remember seeing this like they're jumping on hot air balloons. I gotta go get involved.
Oh, it's amazing. Because it's so different than the airplane thing. It's just totally quiet. You're like drifting with the wind. So it's more like if you've ever done any like cliff jumping, like high cliff jumps into water, or, you know, anything like that, where you're going from like zero and accelerating. It's a lot more like that. So more like what a base jump would be like, but you're doing it at like 10,000 feet
without the dangerous cliff there trying to kill you.
Exactly.
That's why I don't ever want to do any base jumping.
And you have a reserve parachute, which is great.
Which is nice too. Because base jumping you don't, Rick. You don't have time.
No.
And you don't want the weight too, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that's a bad deal. Well, before I let you go, I was going to talk to you about, or I just want to bring it back to like the health and longevity of smoke jumping and stuff, because
sure,
Fritzen had mentioned it my first partial year, because I transferred at the end of 14 to Missoula from West, because there was like a late hire that year for the GS6 seasonal position. And so Mitch ended up bringing me in, Mitch Kearns, and so we had our end of the year meeting, and it's funny because Fritzen had like said like kind of what you had said earlier about like, hey, you know, like this is more new a career thing, and that was in 14 for him to say that, which is kind of, because even then it was still like a lot of people weren't moving, so it's like, you know, maybe not set your goals on being a jumper forever is kind of how Fritzen phrased it.
Sure.
Which is weird, you know. I think it's like that's not that long ago.
Yeah.
And then it kind of develops into a little bit more of a career opportunity, you know, which it's still, I mean, you know, if you, and maybe what Fritz was getting at, if you want to get like a high GS level, you know, maybe not jumping, you know, because it kind of, the rotation and how people come and go, you know, can kind of determine how high you can get in the GS level in the jump world. But
yeah, there's definitely only so many positions and all that stuff. But I think it kind of depends on the person and how happy they are with the, you know, the current position and all of that. And you know, like most of the people in the jump program are, you know, if you talk to even the guys that have been base managers and foremen and all that stuff, most of them will say like the best job I ever had was GS8 Smokejumper, because you're a spotter and you know, or they would say just spotter Smokejumper, because you know, you can still go jump fires, you can go single resource, you can spot if you want. It's not technically like a supervisory position, even though they call it a squad leader, and you're, you know, one of the more experienced guys, so you step into that role. But yeah, so like there's definitely people out there that are career smoke jumpers that really don't want to go above a 7 or an 8. And especially now that they're changing tours quite a bit, you know, there's a lot more push to get people from those 13 positions into 18 and 8 positions or 26 and 0 positions. And there's still people with that, you know, they want the career as a smoke jumper, but they don't want that 26 and 0 position.
Totally.
And so that can kind of guide it too. And so people are staying 7s or 8s longer, and even, you know, I mean, we saw guys retire GS6 for life, you know, because that's, you know, part of it's probably, you know, not getting the promotions over the years or whatever, and then just being like, well, I'm good with this.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, so there's definitely those people out there, and it seems like they're making more of a career of it. And then as far as like, moving up, there's only so many slots, but right now there's a lot of openings throughout the jump world. I mean, there's foreman positions at 4 different bases that are being advertised right now.
Yeah, I saw law foreman for a year, I think, was on the recent thing I got. I don't even know if the position was open.
Yeah, so that was last year here in Missoula.
Yeah.
There was law foreman, and then the assistant they hired pretty soon after that.
Oh, nice.
But right now there's law foreman in Redmond and Grangeville, training foreman in NCSB.
Really?
And then, you know, spread down below that, there's a lot of gaps in the organization too. So, a lot of opportunity for people to move up. And then, like you're saying, for people listening, like a lot of opportunities for new smoke jumpers. All the bases are really going to be looking for big classes the next few years. Try to replenish some of the numbers that are down right now. So,
and for new folks, just from my experience, just be patient a little bit, because like it felt like no one was going to leave. And then I left in 18 is when I was officially gone. I took a detail in 17 and 18. But like spring of 18 is when I was totally, you know, when I went to structure fire.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like that year, the year after, I mean, there was a huge turnover. Like, you know, Mitch retired and all these folks retired from the overhead positions. And all of a sudden, like, there was just this flood of positions. And so it's like at the time, it felt like it was never going to turn over. And that wasn't the reason why I left. It's just my health was bad. But so like for folks who maybe feel like it isn't going to turn over, it will eventually. It's just, you know, being a little patient.
Yeah.
And then
that's, I mean, I got to that point a little bit, you know, in my career. I think I spent like 8 to 10 years maybe as like a GS 6.
Yeah.
And, you know, which was great and a lot of great experience at that level and stuff. But it was just kind of like, I'm ready for more and all this stuff. And then, eventually like it happened like real quick. I was like a 7 and an 8. And then I've been an 8 for a while. And, and it's been great. Like I've had, you know, the flexibility to be involved with a lot of training stuff in the spring. I've been super involved with loft stuff for
ever.
It seems like
since I was around.
So anyway, it's always changing. There's people, I've seen a lot of people get frustrated, kind of like, oh, I'm stuck and I need to go do something else or whatever. And then, yeah, like the next year they're getting a different job, moving up, so it goes in waves for sure.
And I think, like you kind of said, enjoying like where you're at in the moment, because like the opportunities you got to be all over. I mean, you were in the Ram Air training with me in Alaska as one of the cadre, and which is super cool, getting to come help with that, and then go on to McCall, like you said, and then out to Reading, like all these opportunities, because you didn't fast track your way to a higher position, because you probably could have, maybe talk the wife into moving around a little bit and trying to, jump the ladder, but you wouldn't have got the opportunities,
Sure.
even if you guys did. And
yeah, that was definitely, I mean, a huge part of, I've always been like super stoked on teaching and training. And so like, it's just something I've always been drawn to. Even before I was training smoke jumpers, it was like, oh yeah, you need a fire class, let's put this on, like whatever. And so, yeah, trying to figure out, what people need and getting them the right stuff. And that's always been super fun for me. So, being able to be involved with like the smoke jumper training stuff has been just a huge blessing for me to be able to do that. For 10 plus years now. I actually was involved with our rookie training in Missoula in 2013.
Oh, really?
With like TK and Zonner and those guys. Everybody from West Missoula and Grangeville. And that was kind of like when I started doing like jumper training, really. And then basically the year after that, I got involved with the transition training, and then it was like 10 years straight of like, moving from like doing AV and logistic stuff to like manipulations for parachute stuff to actually leading training, and then even developing like curriculum and different classes and things like that. So to actually moving to develop the training, and it's been great for me. It's been fulfilling, and it's the things that I love to do. And actually, with the opportunity that I have this summer to go and work in a foreman position, it's like, man, I don't know, like I really still want to do that training stuff. So we'll have to see how that all shakes out. But
yeah, I'd love to hear.
But yeah, it'll be interesting, because I'd like to continue being able to do that, because it's a love of mine. But then there'll be a lot more responsibilities that come with moving up and doing some other things. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, because you're really good at training, because noticed even in the Ram Air training you were really good at simplifying, because my brain was having a hard time with a lot of things. I was overthinking it, and you were able to simplify it and slow it down for my brain, and be like, oh, check it out, man, like you just gotta, it's a simple pattern, what is it, like you're wait, hold on, let me fake this. You're down, was it downwind, base, and final?
Mm-hmm.
So so like,
dude, you're ready, come back.
Yeah, I'm coming in. I'm coming in. And I was kind of like following up a few things with that, and then just was it like right hand, left hand patterns and stuff, so you were able to, I think it's just because it is coming at you pretty hot, during training.
There's so much you got to pack into this like few weeks of time. Like it's tough.
Yeah. And I'm like trying to carry everything with me throughout what you're supposed to do. So trying to keep it all retained, and then buddy checks and all the things that you got to do. They're a little different on the Ram versus, the Ram's so simple.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then, I kind of want to plug your wife, if that's all right. Talk about her training, because to tie in that longevity thing, with the physical fitness, and I think with the education part that we all have coming, just even in PE in high school now, I think you're learning a lot more of like, proper lifting and nutrition and stuff. And I think that's gone a long way for the fire career. Yeah. And then your wife's been getting into that, huh?
Yeah. So she, she had a 10-year career with the Forest Service. She started on an engine, rappelled back in the day when they were still rappelling out of A-stars.
Dang.
She was on Helena Hot Shots for a season. She jumped for 3 years out of Missoula, like 9 to 11. And so she has like a really good fire background. And kind of during the time that she was jumping, she finished her undergraduate degree in health and human performance. And then basically she finished up jumping because she went to physical therapy school.
Yeah.
And so, she's kind of like had two different careers. It was like starting off with the fire career, and then the last almost 10 years now, she's been in physical therapy. But when she stopped doing the fire stuff, I think she really wasn't a runner growing up, but she ended up moving into running marathons and stuff like when she was a firefighter. And then I think she just missed like being in the mountains, being in the woods. And so she got into ultra trail marathons and has spent like basically the last 10 years doing that, racing over in Europe, doing some bigger races around here, Western states, and some bighorn, some of the big like 100-mile races. But her main stuff that she did for a long time was like 50K to 50-mile distance in the mountains. So she's kind of a speed goat.
Yeah, tough as nails. She did that 24-hour one that when we were somewhere, and I think you left to go. Did you leave to go to the race or something? I can't remember what it was, but she had like a 24-hour race. And
it was probably one of those hundreds.
It's like, jeez, man, it's nuts.
But so anyway, she got really into running. She has a health and human performance background. And then the PT side, which is all about like exercise prescription to like manage injuries and stuff like that. So she started moving into coaching and has been doing that the last 2 to 3 years. And at the beginning, it was kind of like for ultra runners, and she does it kind of online. Her business is called Flight Phase. And it went from like coaching ultra runners just for the running portion to some of this crossover where like there was ultra runners who were firefighters and that kind of thing. And then when they found out her fire background, I was like, well, can you work with me a little bit to I want to go rappel next year, or I want to go get on the hotshot crew next year, or I want to go jump next year. And with her background, it was kind of like, okay, well, I know what you need to do to get there. She's already really good with the exercise prescription stuff. And, of course it's different from ultra running to like smoke jumping, but she's able to kind of get programs together for people, be in touch with them on a weekly basis and work with kind of one-on-one with them to kind of coach them into these, either to their goal race or their goal fire position. And so, it's been a cool thing that she's been kind of growing on the side of doing the PT stuff for the last couple of years. Yeah,
which I think is huge and something that I think the fire world could use, is needed because even one of my friends who's been talking about wanting to jump lately, and he's worried, he's 33, so he's worried about his age. Mm-hmm. And then he's also like, so with that, I think he's more prone to maybe training a little, like overtraining a little bit, even though I know people don't really like the word overtraining, but because he was like, man, do I start like next week? He's like, whoa,
that's like everybody year. That's trying to jump.
Yeah.
Because they're so worried about it. And so like most people come in to rookie training with overuse injuries because they're overtraining so much, and it's not just like the guys that are 33, it's the guys that are 25, just going way too hard. And
you see it every year, right?
Yeah. So that's like one of those things that, she's got that experience of like, okay, we're going to put you on this program that's periodized. You're going to build for this many weeks, and then you're going to kind of drop back down your activity levels. And, over the course of like this many months, you'll be able to build up to this. And then we got to taper before, training starts or whatever. Yeah. So, she's had a lot of success now with several people that have gone to jump, several people that have gone to different hotshot crews, and so it's definitely a help, I think, to many people that are trying to get in. I don't know how to say it. I guess move up to like another level of physical fitness or activity within fire. Yeah, it's been good for people. Yeah,
going on the next challenge. I think it's just in human nature, and especially in fire folks' brain, it's like to hammer it, right? Like I'm just gonna like do as hard as I can. And I remember even like the late great Margarita Phillips told me just like do everything hard, because she was an ultra runner too, right? Sure. So she was like telling me to do all these like super hard things. And luckily I had my brother. My younger brother was a collegiate athlete, long distance runner, and so he built it like I was getting ready for I don't know, divisionals or conference or whatever, big track meets. So like you said, periodization and tapering. And so like I came in pretty good shape, but if I was left to my own devices, I might have just hammered myself out, and then, makes rookie training twice as hard, and makes it going in already injured. And
you're dealing with like shin splints or like sore knee or like, anything. I mean,
anything little tweak.
Yep.
Yeah, your lower back gets hammered from all the road miles, So if you have someone helping you kind of rein it in and even tweaking your workouts to be like, maybe you're hitting the pavement too much,
Sure.
You try hitting some more of those dirt trails and hill workouts and, all the stuff that your wife can help, cater to folks.
Sure. Yep. Yeah.
So, is it Life Phase, you said?
So Flight Phase,
Flight Phase.
is the name of the company. You could just look her up though too, Christina Pattison, Christina with a K. But
great resource, man. That's why I wanted to bring it up, because I think anyone who's definitely looking for a little bit of coaching, it helps a ton, because it's so easy to kill yourself, or maybe, just having someone track your numbers, help track your number, because like the mile and a half, you got to make it, the time frame, you got to make that in.
Yeah. And that's the hard thing, because, all of us are drawn to like the thing that we're good at, right? We like that because, maybe it's the easy thing or whatever. Like, I could do push-ups forever because that's what I'm good at and that's what I like to do. And then, what you really need to be doing is running the mile and a half.
That's exactly where I was,
Or like preparing for the mile and a half, doing speed work. Like that's the thing for me. Like, there was definitely a lot of years in my life where I could just get off the couch and do the PT test. But like, now that I'm getting older, I'm like, I got to do speed work. Starting in the late fall, winter, I'm running on the treadmill so that I can, have a good mile and a half time and that kind of thing. So you got to do the things that maybe you're either not good at or don't like as much, just to get more well-rounded. But
totally. 'Cause I was starting to get that way too. So I ran like somewhere between like 10 and 10:30 mile and a half my last year, and I was like, oh, that was a little harder than I remember it being. So like I was starting to have to do that more of that speed work too. And I was a college sprinter, so I shouldn't have been. I didn't think it would fade that fast, but it was already starting to fade on me, where I was gonna have to start doing not just like. Because I would just, I'd run every day, go for like a 5 miler, like 2 mile, whatever it was, and just kind of cruise it.
Yeah.
And that was good enough in the past, but that last year was not good enough. I mean, I passed, but it like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't proud of my time.
Yeah. It's always funny, like telling people that you have to run for your job, but.
Totally, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some people have that mile and a half, and a lot of folks out there don't have that, but. Well, Drew, I don't want to keep you. I know you got stuff going on, but thank you so much for coming, man. And I'd like to, even if we don't do a podcast, but maybe just tie in with you after your detail to see how it goes.
Heck yeah. Yeah, we'll catch back up. It's been awesome chatting with you and catching up. Congrats on all of your new life experiences that you're having. And glad we could carve out a little time to get together. Yeah,
it's been great. You're one of the people that was on my mind when I put this together, man, because you're one of the first jumpers that I'd met, out of Missoula on a fire, and then, talked about jumping with, and then, got to tie in with you, and then we had the Region 6 connection too. Both of us working on Region 6, and then just all the stuff you've been doing, so it's like, man, I got to have Drew on just to even promote the program more too, because,
Well, I'm the biggest Smokejumper nerd there is, so good choice.
Yeah, totally, man. Yeah,
I just love it so much, like I'll talk about it all day. So probably annoyingly. But.
No, it's great, man. I think it helped too, like just talking about like the stuff, all the trainings and stuff, like the prevention, because I think that's the fear is a lot of people hear like hard impact or someone broke something, whatever happened, and during parachuting, and it's like, oh man, well I don't. I'm already beat up being in fire or whatever, like I want to be able to like walk when I'm retired. And it's like, well, we're getting away from that with like, like that third year training you're talking, third year training and all these things and jumping more, and
sure. Yeah. Trying to eliminate that as much as we can. And, I think we're well on the way with that stuff. And, things happen, people get hit by trees, unfortunately. Things happen out on the fire line. Things can happen when you're flying parachutes in the mountains. Like it's not a exact science. And so, injuries do happen from time to time. It seems like, we're making some good improvements to like try to, mitigate that occurrence as much as possible, whether it's education on like, weather in the mountains. I've put together a few new like classes on like where you can expect turbulence and how winds are affected going through the mountains, that kind of thing. That it's good for jumpers, it's good for spotters, like all that decision making. And some of it's I think been lost over the years. Like they used to talk about this stuff, but then we just got to a point where we weren't really talking about it. And now me being involved with paragliding and that community and everything else, like bringing stuff back in, like, hey, there's all this stuff out there, like we can get this to the people and it's going to make them safer. So
yeah, totally.
It's that stuff. It's the education piece. There used to be this attitude on rounds where it was like every time you jump you're going to hit hard. So like it was like, we're not going to give people jumps because there's a chance they're going to get injured if we jump them more.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, if you jump more, you'll have more experience and you'll have the experience to be able to make your landing soft. And so now it's getting, there's a point that's been hit that's like, okay, more jumps doesn't mean more injuries. More jumps means less injuries because people have better slides, better experience to be able to make faster, better decisions under canopy.
Yeah.
And so, I think the program is developing. We're making some good strides in that direction. And I kind of already said it once, but like, I think it's extending people's careers as far as like that goes. So.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like you're living proof. I mean, you've been jumping for a long time, and you came off the round,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
well, happy not to be on a round anymore, and it's So, I don't know, but like I said, I'm a nerd, and I'll talk about it all day. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and thanks everyone for listening.
Right on. Yeah. Have a good one.
Yeah.